It started, I suppose, the way most seismic shifts in a man's life do, with a silence that was too loud. My workshop, tucked behind our house in the quiet, tree-lined suburbs of Savannah, Georgia, usually hummed with the familiar scent of sawdust and the low thrum of machinery. It was my sanctuary, a place where I built things, fixed things, and sometimes just thought. Leo, my 14-year-old son, often joined me out here, handing me tools, learning the grain of wood under his fingers, or just sitting on an overturned bucket sketching in his notebook. It was our place. But yesterday, when I pulled my old Ford F-150 into the driveway after a long day wrestling with a finicky HVAC unit across town, the silence hit me before I even opened the truck door. The house was dark, quiet, no porch lights spilling onto the azaleas, no faint sound of the TV or Leo's video games from inside. Just still. My name is Arthur Vance. I'm 42 years old, and for the past 14 years, I've been a husband and, more importantly, a father. I own a small HVAC repair business. It's honest work, hard work, keeps the lights on and food on the table, and paid for Leo's braces and that trip to the Smoky Mountains we took last summer. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. Our comfortable, predictable life in our modest house on Azalea Drive. Clara, my wife, was usually in the kitchen around this time, maybe humming along to the radio. Leo would be doing homework at the dining room table or sprawled on the living room floor. But tonight, nothing. Clara? Leo? My voice echoed strangely in the sudden quiet. No answer. A knot began to tighten in my stomach. It wasn't like them to be out without a word. I walked through the empty living room, past the dining table where Leo's school books weren't scattered, into the quiet kitchen. No signs of dinner preparations. My heart started to pound as I went down the short hallway to Leo's room. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open. Empty. Not just empty of him, but empty. His favorite baseball glove wasn't tossed on the bed. The stack of graphic novels on his nightstand was gone. A few empty hangers swayed gently in the closet where his favorite hoodie usually hung. It looked like he'd packed. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced through the rising dread. I stumbled back out, my eyes darting around the house as if they might have just vanished into thin air. Our bedroom. Maybe Clara was just resting? I walked into our room. The bed was neatly made. The air felt cold. And then I saw it. A single envelope, propped against the lamp on Clara's bedside table. My name, Arthur, written in her familiar, elegant script. My hands trembled as I reached for it. The paper felt heavy, final. I tore it open, my eyes scanning the words that would forever cleave my life into before and after. Arthur, if you are reading this, Leo and I are gone. Please don't try to find us immediately. There is no easy way to say this, but you deserve to know the truth. Arthur, Leo is not your biological son. 14 years ago, just before I met you, I had a brief relationship with another man. When I found out I was pregnant, I convinced myself it was yours. I wanted it to be yours so badly. I was scared, Arthur. Scared of being alone, scared of being a single mother. You were so kind, so steady, you wanted a family. I told myself the lie, and over time I think I almost believed it myself. But now his biological father, Marcus Thorne, has come back into my life. He is very successful, Arthur, and he wants to be a father to Leo. He can offer Leo a life I never could with you. Opportunities, security, the kind of future every child deserves. Leo deserves to know who his biological father is. We are going to live with Marcus now. He will provide for us. It is the best thing for Leo. I am truly sorry for the lie, for everything. Please understand. Clara. The paper slipped from my fingers, fluttering to the floor. My knees buckled and I sank onto the edge of the bed, the room spinning around me. Leo? Not mine? Marcus Thorne? Gone? 14 years. 14 years of first steps, scraped knees, school plays, teaching him to ride a bike in the park down the street, helping him build that birdhouse in the workshop, cheering the loudest at his soccer games, staying up with him when he had the flu, saving every spare dime to make sure he had everything he needed. 14 years of loving him with every single beat of my heart. Was it all a lie? Was he a lie? The air felt thick, impossible to breathe. My chest ached with a pain so profound it felt physical. Betrayal. Raw, searing betrayal layered over a bottomless pit of loss. Clara, how could she? How could she do this to me? To us? And Leo? Did he know? Was he looking forward to this better life? Did he understand he was leaving everything he knew behind? I stood up, stumbled to the window. The streetlights were coming on, casting long shadows. Our house, usually a beacon of warmth, felt cold, alien, empty. I tried calling Clara's phone. Straight to voicemail. Leo's phone. Dead. I called her parents in Charleston. No answer. Maybe they were with them. I thought about driving there 3 hours away, just on the desperate hope they might be sheltering there. But the note said, "Don't try to find us immediately." It felt like a door slammed shut, locked, bolted. The silence in the house pressed in on me. Every object, every photograph on the wall, every tool in the workshop outside felt like a cruel reminder of a life that wasn't real. The birdhouse Leo and I built last spring sat on a shelf in the garage, unfinished. I spent the night on the couch, staring at the ceiling, the words of the note replaying in my head. Marcus Thorne. Rich. A better life. My life, my family, dismantled by a few lines of text. The next few days were a blur of numbness and pain. I called Brenda, my older sister, who lives just across town. Her reaction was fierce, protective. "That cold-hearted woman. Arthur, you have to fight this." "Fight? How do you fight something like this?" I wasn't his biological father. Did I have any rights? Could Clara just take him? Brenda came over, brought casseroles, sat with me in the suffocating silence. She helped me clear away the dinner I hadn't eaten, fold the laundry Clara had left in the basket. Small, normal tasks in a world that had become utterly unrecognizable. "Arthur," Brenda said softly one evening, finding me sitting in the dark living room, staring into space. "You raised him. You were there for him. Biology isn't everything." Her words echoed the sentiment in my own aching heart. Biology be damned. Leo was my son. He was my son because I loved him, because I taught him, because I was there. But the legal system, I had no idea how it worked. Was 14 years of love enough? Enough to stand against a biological father, especially one who was very successful? The first contact from Clara and Marcus's lawyer arrived a week later. A formal, sterile letter from the offices of Chen & Associates, downtown. James Chen. The letter stated that Clara Sterling and Marcus Thorne intended to seek full legal and physical custody of Leo Vance Sterling. The hyphenated name was a punch to the gut. It politely but firmly asserted Marcus Thorne's biological right and his ability to provide a stable, financially secure environment. It mentioned Leo's transition and requested limited, supervised contact for me to be arranged through their office. Limited, supervised contact? After 14 years? It felt like they weren't just taking my son. They were trying to erase me. Anger, hot and righteous, finally cut through the despair. Brenda was right. I had to fight. For Leo, for us. Finding a lawyer felt daunting. My business provided a decent living, but I wasn't wealthy. Legal battles, especially custody battles, could drain you dry. I started asking around, looking online. I needed someone who believed in my case, who understood that fatherhood wasn't just about blood. I found Elena Petrova through a referral. Her office was small, tucked away in a less flashy part of downtown Savannah. Elena was sharp, focused, with kind but shrewd eyes. I sat across from her desk, recounting the story, the note, the letter from Chen. My voice cracked a few times. She listened patiently, taking notes. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "Mr. Vance," she said, her voice calm and steady, "this is going to be an uphill battle. The law often favors biological parents, and Mr. Thorne's resources will allow him to mount a formidable case. They will try to paint you in the worst possible light." I nodded, bracing myself. "But, Leo, we have 14 years. He's my son. He knows I'm his dad." "That," Elena said, a flicker of determination in her eyes, "is our strength. The established relationship. The child's best interest. At 14, Leo's wishes will carry significant weight with the judge." She explained the process. Filings, discovery, hearings. It was a complex, intimidating world. But as she spoke, outlining a strategy, a path forward, a sliver of hope pierced through the gloom. It wouldn't be easy or cheap, but it was possible. We would fight. The next few months were a grueling education in the American legal system. Paperwork, depositions, interrogatories. Every aspect of my life was scrutinized. Clara and Marcus, through their lawyer, were relentless. They twisted everything. My long hours at work, necessary to build my business and provide for my family, were reframed as neglect. Our modest vacations, like the Smoky Mountains trip, were dismissed as cheap outings compared to the lavish trips Marcus could offer. They even tried to find people to say negative things about me. A disgruntled former employee of mine was contacted. A neighbour who barely knew us was questioned. Elena worked tirelessly, countering their claims, gathering evidence of my involvement in Leo's life, school records showing my attendance at parent-teacher conferences, photos from soccer games, testimonials from friends and family who knew the depth of my bond with Leo. Brenda was a rock, helping me organise documents, offering emotional support, and fiercely defending me to anyone who would listen. We had a few supervised visits with Leo during this time. They were excruciatingly difficult. We met in a neutral location, usually a sterile room at a family services centre. Leo seemed withdrawn, quiet. He looked different, dressed in clothes that were clearly expensive, but somehow didn't look like him. He was polite, answered my questions about school and soccer, but there was a guardedness in his eyes. He didn't talk about Clara or Marcus much, just that they were getting settled. I tried to talk about our old routines, the workshop, the camping trip we were supposed to take. He'd nod, but without the old spark. I felt a terrifying distance growing between us, nurtured by Clara and Marcus. I knew they were putting pressure on him. I could see it. He seemed anxious, caught in the middle. It killed me. Elena warned me this would happen. They'll try to make him choose, Arthur, and they'll try to make their choice seem more appealing, or make you seem less so. The financial strain was immense. Legal fees piled up. I had to dip into my business savings, take out a loan. I cut back everywhere else, eating cheaper food, putting off repairs on the house or truck. It was worth it, though. Every penny was a blow struck in the fight for my son. As the hearing approached, the tension was unbearable. This was it. The judge would decide. Could 14 years of love and dedication truly outweigh biology and wealth in the eyes of the law? I tried to prepare myself for the worst, but the thought of losing Leo permanently, of someone else raising him, teaching him, being called Dad, was a physical agony. I barely slept, replaying every memory of every possible scenario. The hearing itself was a blur of legal arguments, expert testimony, and painful accusations. Clara testified, her voice carefully modulated, painting a picture of a marriage where she felt unfulfilled and a future with Marcus that was best for Leo. She spoke of Marcus's ability to provide stability and opportunity, things she implied I couldn't offer. Marcus testified, confident and polished, highlighting his business success and his eagerness to embrace his role as a father. Their lawyer, Mr. Chen, was smooth and aggressive, presenting cherry-picked facts and twisted narratives to portray me as absent, financially unstable, and unable to provide for Leo's future. I testified, my voice shaking at first, but gaining strength as I spoke about my love for Leo, the life we built, the simple moments that defined our relationship. I showed photos, shared stories, tried to convey the depth of a bond that couldn't be measured in dollars. Elena was brilliant, cross-examining Clara and Marcus, pointing out inconsistencies in their stories, gently challenging their motives. But even with Elena by my side, the weight of their resources, their polished presentation, felt crushing. Then came the moment Elena had prepared me for, the moment we had pinned so much hope on. The judge, a woman named Evelyn Reed, who had presided with a quiet, observant demeanour throughout the hearing, announced that she wished to speak with Leo. My heart leaped into my throat. My palms were slick with sweat. What had they told him? Had the pressure, the manipulation, finally turned him against me? Could I bear to hear him say he wanted to live with them? Leo walked forward, looking small and vulnerable in the formal courtroom. He was sworn in. Judge Reed spoke to him gently, explaining the process, and then she asked him where he wanted to live. He looked towards the judge, his young face serious. My breath hitched. I want to live with my dad. Leo said, his voice clear, cutting through the courtroom's tense silence, my real dad, the one who raised me. The words were a balm to my soul, a shockwave through the courtroom. Clara gasped audibly. Marcus's confident posture stiffened. Mr. Chen looked like he'd been hit by a truck. Leo continued, speaking about our camping trips, not as cheap holidays but as adventures. He talked about me helping him with homework, even when I was tired. He talked about learning to ride his bike, my hand steady on the seat. He talked about the workshop, the things we built together. He spoke of feeling loved, supported, seen. And then he delivered the bombshell. Mom and Marcus, they tried to tell me what to say, Leo said, his voice gaining a quiet strength. They said I should tell you Dad was always angry or too tired or didn't care about my school. They said I should say I wanted to live with Marcus because he has a bigger house and cool stuff. He looked at Clara and Marcus for a brief second, a flicker of hurt and defiance in his eyes before turning back to the judge. But it wasn't true. Dad was never angry. He was just tired from working for us. He always cared. He's my dad. He went on to describe overhearing conversations, Marcus talking about getting people to lie about me, about twisting things. He mentioned hearing them plan how to make me look bad. He even recalled hearing Marcus suggest they handle some of my friends who might testify for me. The courtroom was deathly silent. The judge listened intently, asking calm, clarifying questions. Leo answered honestly, simply. He talked about missing our life, about feeling confused and scared by the pressure he was under. His testimony changed everything. The air in the room shifted. Mr. Chen looked visibly uncomfortable. Clara and Marcus were whispering furiously to each other, their faces pale. The judge called a recess, stating that the court needed several days to review all the evidence, particularly in light of Leo's testimony regarding potential manipulation of a minor witness. The next few days were agonizing. Hope warred with fear. Had Leo's bravery been enough? Finally, the day came for the ruling. We gathered back in the courtroom. I was a wreck of nerves. Elena sat beside me, calm but watchful. Clara and Marcus were there with Mr. Chen, looking tense and grim. Judge Reed entered. She began by acknowledging the complexity of the case. She discussed the evidence presented by both sides. She addressed the financial disparities, but stated that while financial stability is a factor, it is not the sole determinant of a child's best interest. She spoke of my consistent presence and dedication in Leo's life for 14 years, noting my efforts to provide for him, support his education, and participate in his activities, even while working hard. Then her tone grew serious as she addressed the conduct of Clara and Marcus. She stated that Leo's testimony regarding attempts to influence his statements and potentially other witnesses was deeply concerning and reflected poorly on their judgment and regard for Leo's emotional well-being. She paused, looking directly at me. The court finds, she stated, her voice firm and clear, that the bond established between Mr. Arthur Vance and Leo Vance, built over 14 years of consistent love, care and dedication, constitutes the primary and most significant parental relationship in Leo's life. This relationship, freely chosen and nurtured by Mr. Vance, outweighs the biological tie presented by Mr. Thorne, particularly given the concerning circumstances surrounding Mr. Thorne's sudden appearance and the subsequent actions of both Miss Sterling and Mr. Thorne. She then delivered the judgment. Full legal and physical custody of Leo Vance is hereby awarded to Mr. Arthur Vance. A wave of pure, unadulterated relief washed over me, so powerful it brought me to my knees. Tears streamed down my face. Leo, who had been sitting with a court-appointed advocate, ran to me, wrapping his arms around my neck. I held him tight, burying my face in his hair, whispering his name. "Dad," he whispered back, his voice muffled against my shoulder. "I knew you'd fight." The divorce was granted, and, as a consequence of their attempted manipulation, the judge ordered Clara Sterling and Marcus Thorne to pay my legal fees. The following weeks have been